Well, howdy folks. Welcome back to the channel. We've got some pretty big developments going on around here, and well, I'd sure like to show you guys. So back here in the boonies now, I've got kind of a hidey hole going on for some of my junk. And well, y'all know my Willys M38. That's hidden right there now. Of course you know the service truck, but man, this week I had a great opportunity to pick up some new jalopies. Of course, the Willys MB there, the Willys MB tub, I should say. Now that top came out of the storage unit that my M38 was in, and I had that top just sitting on the ground. And fortunately, that Willys MB tub gave me a nice place to store that top. So I got that top thrown on, and it's just held on with ratchet straps. And I've got a ratchet strap in here that's, you know, holding the front end in, but the way it's sitting now, I can open and close this door. And this top here, this top will keep rainwater and whatnot out of this tub, which is awesome because this is an incredibly nice tub, and I'd like this tub to stay in great shape. You can hear there's a bird over there. That bird does not like me encroaching on their space. Sounds like a them problem, though. But yeah, of course, I had my M38, but I've been given opportunity for more Jeeps. You know, just what I needed. So, man, long story short, basically, last weekend, a friend of mine, he called me up, and he goes, "Hey, I saw your video about your M38, and that M38 looks awesome," and he's like, "I've got some Jeep parts for you if you want them." And of course, you know me, I was like, more junk? Absolutely, I need more junk. So I went over and had a look, and man, he needs like a Grammy or an Emmy or whatever they give people for acting, because man, he wasn't kidding when he said some Jeep parts, because 1, 2, 3 Jeeps. And he was like, pretty much kind of just like, you know, get him out of my way. He was kind of spring cleaning, and yeah, so I went over, picked these things up, and got them here. They're rough. They need a lot of work, but definitely parts for my M38. And definitely, I mean, enough to have probably a couple more Jeeps, I'm thinking. So yeah, I was given this awesome opportunity to, you know, get all these Jeeps, ton of parts, which is awesome. I can get to building on my M38 over there. And yeah, I'll give you guys the old nickel tour here of these Jeeps. We'll start right here with this guy. This is probably the roughest of the bunch. The front end's locked up on it, which was kind of a pain in the butt. Obviously, I got it set on this tire so it's not sinking into the ground here. Kind of try and keep some rust off the thing. Of all the tubs I've got here, this is almost the nicest one, although it does have some add-ons and mods and whatnot. You can see that panel right there. Anytime anybody adds sheet metal back here, it's rusted out. That's just kind of a Jeep thing. One of my favorite things is somebody added these little like scoops over. Back here are the drains for the tub, and the drains didn't work very well, to be honest, but it is kind of cool that somebody decided to put these little scoops on this thing. It's got this nice red and white paint scheme. Obviously, it wasn't that originally. The Jeep tag is still on the dash. Still has all the gauges, and one of my favorite things about this Jeep is that this is an old Euclid gauge out of an old piece of equipment, which is absolutely wild that somebody pulled that gauge out and stuck it in this Jeep. These things are full of all kinds of parts, all kinds of leaves too. I haven't taken the time yet. I spent pretty much all day today sort of clearing leaves and trees and limbs and everything back here to sort of make this space ready for these Jeeps, and then getting them all positioned. So probably tomorrow, if I have time, I'll come up, and I want to obviously clean all these out, get all the leaves and whatnot out of these things, because this just holds moisture and helps things rust. I don't think I looked. Man, now I gotta look in that toolbox. I want to see how rusted out the toolbox is right there. All right, here we go. Now's the moment of truth. I got all this stuff moved. This is all like 2.3 Pinto engine stuff, I believe. Oh, maybe this isn't the moment of truth. There we go. Oh, yep, gone. There's the transmission cover, at least. That's not too rusty. That's kind of surprising. We'll set that over there. Oh, I see that floor is pretty rusty. These are all kind of rough Jeeps, but you know, something to work with is absolutely better than nothing. Like I said, I got to get all these leaves out of here. The leaves were fooling me into thinking this was a nicer tub than it was, unfortunately. Got a good jerry can here, which is great. So I mentioned that's 2.3 Pinto engine things. And the guy I got these from, Eric, has a gorgeous M38. I think he said it was a 51 Willys M38. And that's the only M38 Jeep around, let alone Flatfender Jeep in around here locally, that I think I've ever seen just kind of going down the road. And it's just great. He drives the wheels off that thing. And the 2.3 Pinto engine stuff reminded me of that, because he swapped in a 2.3 Pinto engine into that Jeep. And he said he just loves it and probably wouldn't ever go back to the old flathead, which I can't really blame him, you know, being able to daily drive it and whatnot. I mean, that's just awesome, basically. And yeah, his Jeep, it looks all original. It's had a couple coats of olive drab on it, and it's peeling through and whatnot. It's a beautiful Jeep. It's got all the original trinkets and whatnot. He never opens the hood, and you cannot tell that that thing is engine swapped at all. And the 2.3, of course, it's a 4-cylinder, so it still kind of sounds like a Jeep. It doesn't have that classic, you know, Jeep engine whine to it. The like L134, even the F-heads kind of have like a unique sound to them. But that thing, his old M38 is awesome. And yeah, these were all basically parts for his Jeep. The old license plate on this thing's 1986, so this thing's been off the road for a minute. And like I said, that's probably the roughest and well, like I said, I probably wouldn't say roughest, but that's probably the Jeep that I'm least excited to get running again, so it's probably just going to sit here. The next least is this one, although I'm super excited about this one because this is kind of a cool Jeep right here. So I guess we ought to start at the front, realistically. It's got a scoop on it, or at least a I guess that's not a scoop, but a bump in the hood. So somebody swapped in an F-head. That's a super common thing with old flat fender Jeeps, is that people will upgrade to an F-head engine, and the F-heads had a taller carburetor, and you needed to add some sort of bump in the hood to clear the carburetor. So everybody does this dumb thing, and it just doesn't look all that good. But this Jeep, you can tell by the these smaller marker lights set in the grill. This is an early CJ2A, so like it's not late 1945, I don't think, so it's like 1946, 1947, thereabouts, a pretty early one. Because of that, somebody added these lights, although these are cool lights. They have the glass marker bulb in them, which is great. I love these old grill covers. These things are so neat. I kind of want to get one, or sort of, I don't know, restore this one to put on my M38 someday. One of the cool things about this thing are these old all-state locking hubs on here. They're super neat, old locking hubs. The fenders aren't bolted on, the hood's not attached, but the grill is still bolted on, which is wild. So I had to like strap all this up to haul it home and everything. One of the cool things, and you can kind of see it coming through, this Jeep's one of my favorite colors. It's Luzon red, and you can see it really well in the wheel wells. This is a World War II windshield frame because it doesn't have any, it's not stamped Willys up here, which is one of the ways you can tell an early windshield frame and hood is if it has Willys stamped in it, it's post-war. If it's blank, it's a World War II era. That hood that goes with my MB tub over there is not stamped. That's actually a World War II hood. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's cool that this thing has this windshield frame. You can see the olive drab peeking through right there. Over here, of course, you have the passenger had to, you know, wipe his own window. Somebody added on a rear view mirror. And now we get to the second super cool thing about this particular Jeep right here. This is a column shift Jeep, which was also an early Jeep thing post-war, is they tried to market and sell the 3 on the tree column shifted Jeeps And I believe they use the T90 transmission. And you can see here's the steering column tube. There's where the column shifter went. And I also have, that's the tonneau cover, of course, without a hole in it for the shifter. So I mean, this is a column shifted Jeep, and I believe he said that he actually has the transmission for this Jeep. He's got some other stuff that I'm probably going to pick up here in the next week or so, whenever he gets time to clear everything out and get it out in the open so we can load it up. I'll be getting more stuff, transmissions, transfer cases, whatever else he has laying around for these things. But obviously the Jeeps are kind of the big ticket, you know, item. And they were also the biggest thing to be hauling out of there. So this is where we started, of course. This one, again, just leaves. So we gotta clean all these out so they don't rust. I'm curious again about this toolbox. Of course, these seats, how could I not mention them? Sort of aftermarket, thrown in from some 60s car. They looked kind of like Ford seats, but I'm not 100% on that. Let's see if I can... Oh, we got an old license plate. Huh, 1994. That's wild. Interesting. The things you find. Again, toolbox rusted out. No shocker. I haven't really looked at this Jeep or that one too well before now, so it's kind of given me a chance to explore a little bit. This tub's actually pretty nice. The floors in this Jeep are pretty good. A good radiator here. Something to work with at least, and something is always better than nothing. Wheel wells, quite a bit of rot along there. Here's where the side-mounted spare tire was. Another way you can tell kind of an earlier CJ is with the side-mounted spare tire. Of course, that's pretty obvious. Tailgate's all dinged up. One thing I did notice is the back of this thing is super rusty. Like you can see, there's where your pintle hitch would have mounted, and that is all gone. And when I towed this thing, I towed it all the way home, no sweat. When I pulled this thing off of the car trailer and was pulling it up the driveway, the tub shifted. And that's how I could tell that this is all busted back here. And then I don't think there's any bolts on the front. So this tub's not really bolted down. Just like all these things, it needs a lot of help. But it's so neat to look at. Somebody added that tail light and that one. These early CJ2As actually only had one tail light. It was the tail light on the driver's side. So that's pretty wild. Got the drawbar back here. You know, good starter, some coil springs for something. It's over here on this side is where you can see the old Luzon red peeking through. We get a light in there. There you can see the old, it's kind of a like maroon red that they used on some of these earlier Jeeps. And that's probably like my favorite color that they used on these things. And so it's pretty cool that this one was probably originally that color. So that's pretty neat. Still got the fuel tank in there. No doubt the fuel tank's rusted out. Empty oil jug. Definitely, you know, a good couple dump runs in the making here. Throttle pedal's still in there. Battery hold down. Old windshield clamp or something. Air horn for the carb. Yeah. Like I say, this one's, she's pretty rough, but being an early column shift CJ2A is super neat to me. And this one's on the list somewhere. I'm thinking about it. But yeah. Of course, I had to save the best for last. You can tell it's the best because it's over here next to my M38. My M38, I'll remind you, doesn't have any of the drivetrain in it. There's no engine, transmission, or transfer case right now. But it just looks so neat that, you know, you can't not love this thing. Of course, the whole front clip on this, my M38 here, is all just wire tied on. So it looks like a Jeep, but it does not function as a Jeep. There's going to be quite a bit going on with the M38 here, hopefully this summer. I've got a lot of plans. We'll just have to wait and see how it all works out. Now on to this thing. And this is the most, currently I think this is the most complete Jeep that I own. This is another early CJ2A. Again, the smaller marker lights that are set into the grille. And that's probably the only way that I could really tell this was an earlier one. It's got these beautiful 6016 bias plies on it. Working around, of course, I mean, the greasy half cab on this thing is insane. These extra support mounts on here, the like Mickey Mouse ear lights. Torch cut around the back here on this thing. I was theorizing, and I'm almost certain that this was a plow Jeep. I think this thing had a snow plow on it, because you have the plow head frame here, hydraulic lines for the plow. And if you look at this thing, it's not the angle it's sitting at. This Jeep actually sits with the nose up, and you can see that the front leaf springs are super arched on it, and the rear leaf springs are pretty flat. You can't see that at all, but, you know, take my word for it. The rear leaf springs are kind of flat, and the front ones are arched on this thing. So this thing had the front end kind of beefed up to haul a plow around. And people love Jeeps, Broncos, Scouts, anything short wheelbase and four-wheel drive. Everybody loves them for plow vehicles because, of course, they have a smaller wheelbase, and you can sort of whip them around in a tight area when you're snow plowing. So that makes these things super nice to use. And yeah, almost certain that's what this thing did. You can see where they torched off that plow head frame and mount and everything off of this thing. So they did a pretty good job torching it off. You can't hardly really tell. So I'm pretty happy about that. But we'll go ahead and have a look at the goods. It's a little disappointing, not gonna lie, but like most things, it is what it is. So back when Eric's M38 had the flathead in it. It had a cracked head, and he pulled the cylinder head off this thing, put it on his M38, and unfortunately just never got the time to cover this up, or never really thought about it or worried about it, which it is what it is. It kind of sucks, but I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do at the end of the day. These a lot of these vehicles, they're deceiving, because you think, I close the hood, it's safe, but the crack in the hood right there, and just moisture in the air and everything, it'll come around and bite you in the butt. I think this engine's definitely savable, and I'm going to do what I can to save it. If not, I might be able to track down something else to put in here. But the plan for this thing is to make this Jeep the old yard jalopy. And I kind of want to do everything I can on it super quick and dirty, and just basically like that, like my service truck there, is just make it so I can rip this thing around the yard and have a good time. And this Jeep here will give me the motivation to make my M38 nice, and so I can drive the M38 down the road, and well, I can just kind of pretty much beat on the old CJ2A here. Pretty much this thing's fairly complete. Part of the reason why I actually went and finally got the MB here is because it came with a cylinder head that I knew I needed for this Jeep. I didn't mention anything in the video when I got the MB there, because, well, that would spoil the surprise. So I've got the cylinder head. I really only need a carburetor is the big thing that I need for this thing, and we can do a lot with it. I think I'm going to pull this engine out. I'll take it down to the shop, stick it down an engine stand, and do what I need to down there, because there's no sense in trying to do it in frame. But yeah, it's a shame it ended up this way, but hopefully this engine's savable. It's this back cylinder is the worst of them all, and well, time will tell if it's savable, basically. Moving on back here. Of course, this top, it's got slider windows, just like my Scout, which is wild. They're old plexiglass. Well, you can't miss the old pipe handle, door handle there. I already brought up, this is the cylinder head that I got with that MB. So this is cylinder heads already with this Jeep. The interior on this thing's fairly complete, which is awesome. This is definitely the worst tub I have. all the rust down in there. The toolbox is completely gone on this thing. Like I said, I haven't cleaned these things out at all, so there's still junk like this in here. Toolbox is completely gone on this thing. There's some odds and ends in here again for a 2.3 Pinto engine. So there's a whole intake manifold. I believe he said this was an adapter plate to adapt a 2.3 Pinto engine to a Jeep T90, which is awesome. And definitely something I'm going to hold on to and think about for the future. The 2.3 is a carbureted engine, so that's kind of like, it's a great option to have for these things, and they fit beautifully in the engine bay of an old Jeep like this. I think that's an exhaust manifold for a 2.3. This right here is pretty cool. This is a brand new slip yoke in the box, and I think it's, yeah, the way it's printed and everything, I'm almost certain that this is a military piece. World War II or sort of M38 era. You can see it still has all the wrapping on it and all the rust preventative coating and everything. So a brand new slip yoke for one of these drive shafts. We'll put that back in what's left of that box. Yeah, the great thing about all these Jeeps is they've sat protected for quite a few years. And one of the like rare things when it comes to a lot of this stuff is to have these gauges without broken glass. Or at least in my opinion or in my experiences, there's always some goofy kid that's got to come around and like smash the glass out of all the old gauges, which is just such a shame. And it happens with these Jeeps so often because you got to remember the youngest Jeep sitting here is my M38, and even that is like all over 70 years old. So they're super old. Everything's super beat up on these things, and yeah, it's kind of a miracle when things aren't all completely broken. It's a shame this top is so far gone. It's super like rust jacked and just falling apart. Like there's nothing holding that glass in right now. So this top probably isn't long for this world, and I'll probably take it off of this Jeep just so I'll be able to see out of it, and I'll get another windshield frame to throw on this thing. But like I said, this is the most complete one. Still got the mirror and everything. Here's the top bow bracket for if you had the soft top on this thing, the canvas soft top, you could put that there. We did notice the fuel tank's been deleted, and that right there is the new fuel tank. Lord only knows how usable that's going to be, but, you know, we'll see. Another nice thing, these all came with a bunch of seat frames, so there's 2 seat frames there. Those are both passenger sides, and then there's a driver side seat frame there, which is, I mean, with this many Jeeps, it never hurts to have more. This one's still got the drawbar on it, which is great. Old Willie's tailgate in okay shape. This one only has the single taillight on it still. Nobody's ever added another taillight on it, which is wild that nobody ever did that. Yeah, it's wild to explore these things. They've all kind of just sat. I don't think Eric ever really did a whole lot with them just because they were always parts for him for his M38, and he's got a buddy that's got another CJ2A that's in pretty good shape, so there was never really any pressure to make these 3 Jeeps work. They were just kind of spare parts. Which, when you've got something nicer, can you really blame a fella for not worrying about the super greasy old stuff? I believe that's a engine-driven hydraulic pump for a plow. Probably came off this Jeep or came off another vehicle, and they were planning to put all this on this Jeep. You never really do know. We can look in from this side. Air cleaner setup, awesome. I absolutely needed one of those for my M38. A bumperette, never hurts to have a spare one of those. That's a good ratchet strap right there. It always cracked me up how Jeeps, some of these early Jeeps have these like super bent shifters. If you hold on a second, I have some light. There we go. These a lot of these Jeeps had this kind of weird bent shifter that has this weird arch to it. It's super goofy. I kind of like it. It's just kind of a weird thing. and this transmission's super sloppy. But the fortunate thing about this Jeep is because it had this top on it, the transmission, I don't think, ever really got any water down in it, which is definitely a bonus, because that's kind of an issue with Jeeps. They don't have tops. And of course, this boot always breaks just like this. I mean, that's super, like, it's just falling apart, you know. And water just goes right down there. Those transmissions get super rusty and nasty in there. And that's why they make so many parts for T90 transmissions, is because they're always busted up and broken and nasty and whatnot. So kind of cool saving grace that this thing has the half cab on it. New headlight bezels. Well, headlight bezels, not new ones. Another bumperette. Awesome. Oh. Hold on. We got something good here. What is this? New spark plugs? Let me find a place to put my light. We've gotta investigate this. Well, wouldn't you know it, we got 4 new spark plugs. They're all corroded, and frankly, I couldn't tell you if they're for a Jeep or not. I don't think they are. They definitely look like they're like lawnmower spark plugs, which is kind of a shame, but new spark plugs are new spark plugs, I guess. Pretty wild. We'll keep those in a safe place. Yeah, pretty wild. Like I said, I'm definitely the most excited about this CJ2A here, the red one. And I'll start doing videos on this guy pretty quick. I think I want to make this one drive around the yard before I worry about my M38. My M38 is just going to be a long road and a lot of work until that's kind of drivable. So if I can make this one run and drive, like I said, motivation right there to work on this one. So it's all a long road and a long process and a lot of doing and whatnot, but you know, that's just the way she goes with all these old projects. And I'm definitely surprised that the Jeep thing here has been so exaggerated. I got my M38 at the end of February, I believe, and since then, that's the first Jeep I've ever owned, and it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're multiplying like you wouldn't believe, but I couldn't be more excited. So basically, stick around if you guys are interested in Jeep content. Old four-wheel drive stuff has always been my kind of thing, so it's definitely growing around here, and I've definitely got a little bit of space to sort of fan out, and you know, I can fill this whole area up with Flatfender Jeeps or old Scouts or whatever I want now. So good stuff. Definitely, you know, if you guys dig this stuff, you want to see more on this Jeep, which I'm definitely excited about. If you guys want to see more about it, you know, like, subscribe, follow along. There's going to be a lot of videos on stuff and things as I go along and as time goes on. And, you know, the more I work on, the more I can do videos on. So I want to thank you guys for watching and liking and following, subscribing, doing all the shenanigans and all the nonsense. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.